Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick Richard. I'm a senior manager with Mandiant Intelligence's Advanced Practices team. Thanks for coming out to my presentation, Supercharge Your Frontlines, Purpose-Built CTI for IR and SOC Success. This presentation will be right around 35 minutes and hopefully have some time for Q&A at the end. Coraline will have a microphone that she'll bring around if you do have a question. Okay, in early 2023, I was about 6 months into my role as the Director of Advanced Practices, and I was organizing my first leadership offsite. So, of course, new company, Google, got to impress my boss, totally packed that agenda with a bunch of stuff, and, after 3 days, I feel, we got a lot done. We accomplished a lot as a new team, and it was Thursday. Everyone was pretty spent, figured that was the ideal time to craft our last task, which is to craft our new mission statement. So thought about it. It's got to be aspirational and debated about it for 20 minutes. But eventually, we came up with the line, revolutionize frontline intrusion intelligence. So we've always had the same core mission within the team, which is supporting the frontline services, Mandiant Consulting IR, and Managed Defense. So that remained unchanged over the years. So at Google, we have both job titles, which is tied to like a specific role. It's kind of like the HR part, the back end stuff. And then we have business titles, which are a bit more public-facing and flexible. So after this offsite, and we came up with this new mission statement, revolutionize frontline intrusion intelligence, I figured, well, my business title should be Frontline Intrusion Intelligence Revolutionary. Hence the Thomas Jefferson Intel Nerd emblem here. So before that, I spent about 17 years supporting the Intel community as a contractor, providing analysis and engineering expertise in counter-narcotics and organized crime, counterterrorism, and eventually cyber threat intel mission areas. And then prior to my studies at the University of Connecticut, I shipped off to Army boot camp at the tender young age of 17, and then served as an armor crewman at Fort Carson, which coincidentally is about an hour south of here. All right, so a little bit about the overview for today's presentation. I feel this topic is a little bit unique, and that we generally talk about an intrusion, a threat group, or maybe a campaign, but not about how to create the team that provides that capability. So I'm going to pull back the curtain on the best practices of what we call AP, or advanced practices, that I've developed over my 10 years on the team. You'll hear my views about the importance of frontline cyber intel and why it's so important to frontline services, so our IR and SOC teams, and which allows them to understand and respond to threats effectively. We'll begin with a brief overview of AP and how it evolved to a top-tier world-class team, partnering with the top-tier elements of Mandiant Consulting IR and Managed Defense SOC analysts. Then we'll delve into how Frontline empowers cybersecurity defenders to proactively anticipate, outmaneuver, and respond to threats on the front lines by leveraging sort of diverse data sets, really complex analytical systems, and clear communication protocols. This proactive approach is essential to organizations seeking to be one step ahead of the threat actor. Shifting, we'll go to focus on structure, and we'll explore key factors that shape a successful team, how you organize your structure. We'll think about things like mission clarity, defining roles and responsibilities, strategic staffing, geographical considerations, identifying crucial support work streams, and then finally our organizational design. Our next step is to transform raw data into its most potent form, which is actionable intel. We'll explore how we collect, analyze, and share insights to create real-world impact with emphasis on the power of collaboration to make that transformation. Moving on, we'll focus on maximizing the impact of our intel by embedding it directly into frontline operations. This involves focus on embedding intel into workflows through real-time collaboration, self-service tools, and sort of enriched data. And then finally, we'll shed a light on common pitfalls and challenges that you might find in supporting the frontline that can hinder effectiveness in those operations. We'll examine key areas like fostering trust, optimizing resources, embracing continuous improvement, and prioritizing teamwork. So just for the record, they have these in the speaker's lounge. I'm not pounding beers. This is just water. So moving on. All right. I joined Mandiant's Intel Ops team in early 2014. This was soon after the groundbreaking APT-1 report was released that was sending sort of shockwaves through the industry. It was a pretty pivotal moment within Mandiant Intel, and I spoke with Dan McWhorter. He was the VP of Mandiant Intel before the FireEye acquisition and things like that. So he got hit up by Mandiant leadership, so Kevin, to really elevate our capabilities, and that really laid the groundwork for what we now call frontline intrusion operations. So my journey has kind of mirrored Mandiant's own evolution, as you can kind of see through the icons here, the old Mandiant, FireEye, old FireEye, new Mandiant, and then cloud and the Mandiant cloud. So I've kind of followed that same evolution. So again, in 2015, we organized the advanced practices team, and a little while later, we emerged in Intel Ops, and we grew staffing, technology, and mission areas, aiming to know more about the adversary than anyone and make this knowledge actionable. So we had a lot of function areas that we did within advanced practices at that time. And since then, just like all organizations, we go through a lot of reorgs. And we've gone through some name changes as I've been with the company. But one thing that is constant and consistent is the team that I've supported has always had the same mission, which is providing frontline intel support to Mandiant Consulting IR and Managed Defense. So since 2004, Mandiant has investigated countless breaches, amassing a unique trove of frontline intel through the work of consulting, Managed Defense, and AP. This corpus is invaluable. I really believe that this is a value prop to any organization to have this sort of data. It offers historical context, trend analysis, and the ability to anticipate future threats. It fuels everything from proactive defense, strategic intel, and security training to cutting-edge machine learning. And most importantly, this data enables us to more faster and effective response and alert triage, and empowers responders and threat hunters and guides decision makers, and ultimately helps us uncover and respond to threats more quickly and more effectively. Okay, I'd like to discuss Operation Dynamo, Dunkirk. This is now, I'm not talking about the historical World War II British evacuation, though I do admit I love a good military map. Instead, I want to talk about Christopher Nolan's 2017 film Dunkirk. For what it's worth, this is probably the only war movie my daughter will ask me to go see, unless One Direction's Harry Styles is in another one. So this is it. So the movie masterfully weaves three timelines together. The mole, which is another name for a pier or a causeway, which is 1 week in duration. The sea, which is 1 day, and the air, which is 1 hour, to create a sense of simultaneous urgency and converging action. This narrative structure really resonates with what we do in frontline intel and how we support cybersecurity investigations. Just like Dunkirk, each timeline represents a distinct phase, each crucial to the overall success of the mission. All right, so that's the timelines there from the movie, and this is how it applies to sort of that frontline intel. So the mole, operational planning and collaboration. The mole timeline represents the operational planning and ongoing support phase of IR and SOC investigations. And this phase involves gathering in-depth information about the incident, identifying additional ways to source evidence, and formulating a plan for acquisition and analysis of that evidence. There's a lot of cross-functional collaboration going on. Maybe we're asking for reverse engineering support, or maybe we're asking for dark web or OSINT research to help that out, or maybe we're supporting publishing finished intel that documents a new campaign. The C, active incident response and investigation. This is where the action heats up. Defenders are collecting evidence, triaging alerts, and working to contain and understand the attack. Intel support here involves analyzing digital evidence, enriching indicators of compromise, or IOCs, to expand scope of understanding with the objective of delivering additional context and attribution. The AIR, real-time critical response. This is the moment of truth. The team is actively defending against threats, making crucial and timely decisions, and providing critical information to decision makers. These timelines aren't isolated. They all intersect and interact with each other and depend on each other. So insights from malware analysis inform threat detection. Threat correlation guides evidence collection. Attribution illuminates adversary objectives, which helps create an environment for containment and eradication. Success in one area fuels success in another. And just like in the film, intensity ebbs and flows. There are moments of calm, and there are moments of all-out crisis. The ability to adapt and collaborate across these shifting timelines is really key in supporting frontline intel. Next, we'll dive into how this Dunkirk model translates into real-world support for frontline operations. We'll uncover best practices for prioritizing actions, streamlining processes, and fostering seamless communication and collaboration. Wrong button. All right. The action. So based on my experience at Mandiant, Frontline transforms your security posture from sort of reactive to proactive. It's not just about understanding the threat landscape. It's about arming your defenders with the knowledge to anticipate and outmaneuver adversaries. By understanding attacker techniques, motivations, and targets, we're not just reacting to attacks, we're better able to predict and prevent them. Make informed, data-driven decisions. Frontline insights provide a clear picture of your risks, enabling you to prioritize resources and focus on the most critical threats. And then accelerating detection and response. Armed with actionable intel, your teams can identify and neutralize threats faster, minimizing damage and downtime. So in short, Frontline is not like a nice to have. It's a necessity for any organization serious about protecting its critical assets in today's evolving threat environment. Convincing your organization's stakeholders of this view is the first step in this effort. So moving on to the right data, such as organic telemetry. So these are all your logs and events from your security tools. This tells us what's happening sort of in real time in your environment. OSINT and dark web intel. This gives us a broader picture of the threat landscape and emerging trends by pulling in all that data there. And then next we have third-party tools. These are services like Census, Binary Edge, Domain Tools, Shodan. You've got some PDNS providers, some NetFlow providers. All of these platforms enrich our understanding using this external data. And then lastly, you've got what I do is that investigative data. The findings from IR engagements and SOC investigations provide something that telemetry and most of these other data sources don't really do that well. That's a timeline, a really granular timeline of activity. This is super essential to understand the attacker lifecycle and then build on that, as you build your corpus of data over the years. Next, we need a way to analyze and store this mountain of data. So at Mandiant, we use a graph database. And a graph database uses nodes and edges and properties to represent and store data. So you think like link analysis or 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. That's probably the best analogy there. While selecting the best system to manage your frontline intel is a bit out of the scope of this presentation, Mandiant has found really good success with this graph database model. It's ideal for cyber threat intel as it allows us to map relationships between groups, malware, targeted resources, and among other things. Regardless of the platform that you select and you land on, you need to create a data model that represents the very complex picture of operations of today's threat adversaries. So just think of the components of a phishing email. You've got all that header information, you've got the body, you've got network indicators like all IP addresses, email addresses, links or attachments. You've got to be able to represent all of those things and how they interact and depend on each other in this model, and then all the properties of each. So it's a very complex thing to create a very robust data model. To ensure CTI reaches the right people at the right time, you've got to prioritize your clear and timely communications. So establish protocols, define when the intel team engages, maybe incident severity or specific threat groups. That's what you're going to react on. Use chat applications for real-time collaboration with your IR and SOC partners, tailoring these chat groups to specific needs. We found over the years that's we say submit a ticket or send us an email. Everybody defaults to chat. That's where we're getting everything. It's really the best way to collaborate, we found. Integrate with client communications. So find out how your services partners are talking to their customers. So my customers are Mandiant IR Consulting and Mandiant Managed Defense, but their customers are Acme Corporation and Ajax Unlimited. Figure out how they're talking to them and integrate yourself into those processes so you can add value of your in-depth sort of threat intel insights. Foster leadership engagement. Ensure the leaders on your team are meeting with the counterparts from IR and SOC to assess their overall effectiveness, identify areas for improvement, and discuss new requirements. Actively invite your colleagues from these other teams to team meetings or offsites and things like that. It's a great way to foster collaboration. And then clearly define the basics of your support to these frontline services. So what's the scope? Outline the types of intel you're going to provide. Tactical, operational, or strategic intel. Like my team doesn't write reports. That's not what we do. We provide that tactical to operational intel. We enrich it and provide that to our customers. Are you just providing like atomic indicators, attribution statements, MITRE attack methodology? Figure out what you're delivering and what the expectation is, and what the delivery timelines are for those, and then the formats that they're expecting to see those in. Also, availability. Clarify support hours. Are you working 24/7, holidays, that sort of thing. And then document it in service level agreements. Establish and document mutual expectations with your service partners, including access requirements, prioritization of different things like business email compromise versus active APT, and support standards. Regularly review and update these agreements as needed. All right, structure. This one's pretty long. I'll try to get through it. Aligning team structure, processes, and people with its mission is crucial for success. AP, again, benefits from a very clear, enduring mission, which is that frontline support. To achieve our mission, we've set some basic expectations. For consulting, we aim for real-time or post-incident visibility into every investigation. But for managed defense, we focus on high-impact stuff like priority threat groups, pre-ransomware activity, vulnerability exploitation, and novel techniques. With the objective sets, we can outline the roles and responsibilities of each team member to ensure accountability and avoid overlap while ensuring redundancy. So within AP, we have 5 roles. Director sets sort of the strategic intent of the team and ensures adequate resources. That's me. We have function leads that own a strategy and function area and execute on a core function, such as FIO-IR or FIO-MD, and they manage the people within that function. We have tech leads, and they support the function leads with day-to-day operations to ensure that requisite resources are applied. And then individual contributors, which are the heart of our team, they conduct the in-depth analysis and provide that crucial context for our frontline investigations. And then we have task leads. These task leads will head up crucial support work streams or sort of short-term ad hoc projects. So balancing people and functional expertise is a challenge for most teams. In AP, our function leads are both, handle both of these areas. So you really need strong leadership if you're gonna manage people and also manage functions. While ideally you wanna align a people manager to a function area, this isn't always practical due to maybe staffing considerations or geographical concerns. So how do we staff these positions? This requires hiring people with a really unique set of skills and passion about this mission. The frontline op tempo is crazy, fast, and nonstop. I've been doing it for 10 years, and it hasn't slowed down yet. So you really need to understand the people that you're hiring are willing to get into that environment. So possibly understanding how AP is laid out will help you guide your own team. So we're a global force. We span 7 countries, and we're fluent in over 12 languages, which provides a diverse perspective on each region. We're experienced. The median industry tenure on the team is 12 plus years, and the median within Mandiant is 6+ years. So we're pretty mature that way. Generally, we don't hire anybody that's got anything less than 5 years of experience to come onto our team in investigative roles, such as a threat analyst or an incident responder or a SOC security analyst. We value try before you buy. So 20% of our team have done a 6-month internal rotation into our team. So they could test us out, we could test them out, and we've had really good success. I got a colleague sitting here in the front, Kirsty, who did that, and we were able to check each other out, and it really helps us identify people that are gonna work well on the team. And then we've got just some deep ties to the intel community. 40% of our team are veterans, and then on average, the people that have intel community support, they work that problem set for about 10 years. So there's a lot of diverse experience there. Also, our team members aren't focused on a specific region or mission area. While individuals might have specific areas they're interested in, like DPRK, espionage actors, or Fin6, or something that really catches their eye, and they'll tend to focus on that, and we give people space to pursue the things they're interested in. But they're able to apply their skills across the entire scope of what our problem area is. So this could be a business email compromise, active APT-29, financial crime, ransomware, nonstop, crypto miners. We prioritize all these things differently, but they've got to be able to apply their knowledge to each of these particular areas. So additionally, we found that candidates that demonstrate these skills have great foundation to build on within supporting Frontlines. These are threat hunting and pivoting. Got to be able to do that with a high degree of capability. Static and dynamic malware reverse engineering. So we're not expecting our people on our team to be pulling up IDA Pro and ripping apart malware. We really don't have time for that. We push that off to our Flare team for anything that is going to take a lot of our time. But should be able to do some basic static and dynamic malware reverse engineering. Scripting and automation. We just got to do that to be scalable. Be able to create ways to automate things. Leveraging commercial threat data sources. So I mentioned earlier things like Census and Binary Edge. Exploiting those systems to get to the left of boom, finding those threat actors before they've actually operationalized their infrastructure. We've got to figure out ways to do that. So people that have that knowledge and that skill set, very good. Signature and detection development. So we aren't creating production grade signatures for our team that are getting into product. We're creating those signatures that are basically hunting sort of signatures. So this is an 80% possibility it's this threat actor or this malware, and then we dive into it from there. Very good skill. And then the team is, in addition to being very technical, we are salespeople, customer support people. So you've got to be able to manage stakeholders and communicate and manage stakeholder communication and expectations. So maybe there's some consultants here from Mandiant. They will get away with whatever they can get away with. They'll give you stuff, and you've got to every once in a while be able to push back and say, hey, maybe this is something that you could look into, but we just got to be able to manage that in a very kind and loving way, as we like to say. All right. Geography. Oh, also, foster a culture of continuous learning by providing opportunities for professional development. So definitely budget in some time for attending things like this, ManWise or other sort of conferences. It keeps them up to date, helps them network, that sort of thing. Geography plays a very key role in team structure. So if you're a team of one, pretty easy. But as you expand, it gets a bit more complicated. So much of Mandiant's frontline work is concentrated in North America and Western Europe. So naturally, our team skews to the US, mostly on the East Coast, the best coast in my opinion, but that's just me. However, as we expanded, we strategically grew our team in EMEA and APAC to better support global operations. So for global coverage in those regions, that gives you near 24/7 support for incident responders and SOCs, minimizing the impact of really time-sensitive threats. Regional expertise. You've got local knowledge and cultural understanding for interpreting threat intel and adapting responses to those regional sort of differences. Language skills, as I mentioned earlier, essential for analyzing global threats in the region and communicating effectively with your local clients and international partners. And then local collaboration. Having people in different regions allows us to build stronger relationships with law enforcement, government agencies, other intel or security providers, which improves our threat detection and response capabilities. And then lastly, it gives you a wider talent pool. You have access to a deeper pool of CTI professionals from diverse regions and perspectives, which builds a more skilled team. While providing attribution and context is our core goal within frontline investigations, there are several supporting work streams that are vital to our success. So we've adopted what is known as the Centers of Excellence model. And this is a concept, I believe, that started in the manufacturing industry, like the 80s or something like that. It's for those that have military background. It's similar to like our S shops, where you've got operations, S1, and actually operations, I think, is S3. No, thank you, sir. You got training, you got logistics and supply. It's similar to that. So by establishing these COEs, we focus on key areas like hiring, training, tech, quality assurance, fusion cell support, AI, M2D2, a little more on that in a second, and genes. Team members volunteer for these COEs and as leads or contributors, and it ensures these vital functions thrive. So highlighting a couple of these, fusion cell support. This COE integrates AP's operations with frontline observations from Mandiant's greater fusion cells. So fusion cells are just cross-team collaborative areas that maybe are mission-focused, like Russia, China, Iran, for example, or financial crime. So we make sure that our stuff gets into fusion cells, and we take things out of fusion cells and move it into frontline. Good anecdote, and this is my only anecdote that I could fit into this presentation, was just this Saturday. We spotted some IT worker activity in our DPRK fusion cell. Our fusion cell lead identified that, passed that over to our managed defense team. They swept for the indicators of compromise. There was a low priority alert that just probably wasn't getting much attention just because it was low priority. We highlighted that, had the managed defense team dig into that. They found some stuff, turned that into a rapid response, and continue with that investigation. We then took that information that we found working with our managed defense partners and then worked it back into the Fusion cell to feed back that loop. M2D2, the CO is short for merges, modeling, and deep dives. This focuses on streamlining actor knowledge to merges. So merging one cluster another, a cluster into an APT group, or a cluster into a FIN group, that sort of thing. This builds our knowledge set. And also, this COE helps redefine our data model. As we're identifying new things that threat actors are doing, we're always changing our data model. And then lastly, this supports deep dive efforts. So recently we just did an APT 44 graduation. This is Sandworm. There was a lot to go into that to make sure we had everything to support that, going from, there was probably 15 different subgroups that we merged into to make that graduation to APT 44. And then lastly, Gene COE. This COE manages training and everything that goes into detections and signature creation so that our team is fluent in that area and can keep creating detections and automations that will scale our workflows. So COEs are incubators for leadership, fostering skills like ownership, strategic thinking, mentorship, and problem solving. This elevates individual expertise and strengthens the team and fosters a culture of innovation and high performance. So consider, COEs in your organization. So here's how our org structure looks on paper. This diagram represents how we operationalize our mission, staffing, and geographic considerations and centers of excellence. So highlighting a few. First question you might ask is, why is IR broken down regionally? So we've just, over the years, have come to learn that it's really proximity to IR responders. Our consulting IR team is global as well, so being able to respond to their questions in real time is key to that structure there. SOC support is not tied to geolocation as much, so we can just have one function area. We could always break it out if we need to. That is the benefit of the scalability and agility of this structure. We can add new regions or add new functions areas as we need to. Also, it creates accountability. There's clear lines of responsibility that everybody understands their expectations and performance standards. And it helps maintain focus. While cross-training the team is super valuable for redundancy, we found that dedicated function areas yields better results. The idea of rotating individual contributors through different function areas like SOC and IR has resurfaced over the years, but it hasn't really proven effective. And this last time we actually wrote it down, so we're gonna remember, we're gonna do it again. Context switching is super hard, especially if you're doing, because IRs can go from weeks to months to years, while SOC alert triage is many a day, and it lasts a day unless it goes to something like a rapid response or converts to IR, things like that. So it's very hard to manage that. So dedicating ICs to a single function, we found greater consistency and output. And then COEs overlay across all of this, and it interconnects all of these workflows to add training, processes and workflows to ensure that we're continuously growing and evolving. So embracing these principles may help you with your unique needs for your organization. Okay, starting from the upper left, our process starts with mandates, frontline IR and SOC teams, where they're constantly identifying and investigating malicious activity. To graph the scale of this, IRs, we did over 900 last year, and we did over 18,000 SOC investigations. AP attributed about 47% of those IR investigations and about 7% of the managed defense investigations. So you're like, 7%, that doesn't seem a lot. So that is really those high prioritized things we talked about. So the high impact things, the threats that pose the greatest risk. So interestingly though, the amount of IOCs and TTPs that we get out of IR is about equal to the amount of those that we get out of managed defense. It's very similar, even though the scale is a little bit different. Then we go to documenting evil. This is a critical link between frontline intel and our intel systems. Build automated pipelines to get that data into your systems. We used to lovingly move things from a digital system to a spreadsheet and then transfer it to another digital system, and obviously that doesn't scale. Over the years, we've built pipelines. Centralized analysis, this is where we do our thing. We're collecting that data, processing frontline findings, validating data, and collaborating with IR and SOC partners, and ensuring appropriate resources are applied to tasks based on severity of the incident. Deep dive analysis. Next, we contextualize, correlate, and attribute these findings. This is where our analysts translate raw forensics data into actionable intel. We have 10,000 different sort of aspects or characteristics we can apply on forensic data, and that's where it's done here and turned into actionable intel. Enriching and pivoting. From there, we take that information and we'll pivot off of, say, we get a C2. We'll look at that information, look at all of our data sources, see what we can find about it, enrich it, and then uncover additional infrastructure. And then we take that information finally and disseminate it back to our frontline providers, which they use to proactively hunt for threats, adapt their investigation, or make informed decisions. This continuous feedback loop ensures leaders are always equipped with the latest knowledge to combat evolving threats. All right, integrating frontline intel support with IR and SOC is very multifaceted. So you've got to embed this into workflows, and here's some key strategies for that. So embedded workflows and outputs, real-time collaboration, I'm going to hit on this again, and establish direct communication channels using chat for seamless information sharing between IR, SOC, and intel during the investigations. Self-service tooling, explore the ability to deploy a bot or maybe some sort of AI tool that supports the ability to enable frontline defenders to answer their own questions. Is this hash bad? Does we have any context around this IP address? Is this email associated with ransomware activities? Have them be able to answer their own questions. That way you can focus on more strategic or operational level stuff. Cross-stream enrichment. Develop automated pipelines to feed this information into your other teams across the organization. Work with other intel teams specializing in areas like vulnerability research, espionage, and financial crime. Joint projects. Encourage joint projects between IR, intel, and SOC, like blogs or conference presentations. IR playbooks, threat-specific playbooks. Develop playbooks tailored to specific threats, actors, and attack types. These playbooks should include intel-driven insights and adversary TTPs, and likely targets using real-world examples in those playbooks. Update those. These should be dynamic updates. Ensure that playbooks are regularly updated with the latest intel on evolving threats and vulnerabilities. This should incorporate IOCs, attack patterns, and new novel techniques. And then ensure there's a playbook feedback loop. Establish feedback mechanism with IR teams to contribute to and improve these playbooks based on their experiences. This ensures that these playbooks remain sort of relevant, practical, and effective. And then for SOC alert triage, prioritize alerting. Use intel to prioritize SOC alerts based on the severity of the threat, the potential impact, and the organization's risk profile. This ensures that analysts focus on the most critical alerts. And then contextualize these alerts. Each prioritize SOC, enrich prioritize SOC alerts with things like threat actor attribution, malware information, or other relevant TTPs. This provides analysts with deep understanding of the threats and aids in faster triage. So by implementing some of these strategies, operations can bridge the gap between intel and operations, empowering IR and SOC teams to proactively defend the front lines, accelerate response times, and make more informed decisions. Okay, over the past, so just on this image here, it's trying to get Gemini to come up with a AI-inspired image about peril was interesting. So this is, I think, the best one. Anyway, moving on. Over the past decade, I've had the privilege of supporting frontline teams, and along the way, I've learned a lot of things that work well and then things that don't. So let's explore a few of those common pitfalls and how to avoid them. So trust, it's the cornerstone of collaboration. It's essential for effective collaboration between Intel and services teams. So avoid surprises. Communicate openly and often, and build confidence by consistently delivering valuable intel that supports their clients. Avoid jeopardizing investigations or client relationships by prematurely publishing information about the investigation without consulting the services teams. Uncoordinated disclosures can lead to unintended consequences. Resource optimization. Resource optimization is more than just preventing burnout. It's about maximizing your team's effectiveness. To achieve this, analyze your workload, carefully assess the demands placed on your team, consider the volume of investigations, the complexity of the tasks, and the time required for each activity. Then correlate this to staffing. Develop metrics that link those workloads to staffing levels. And these data-driven approach will help you make that case with leadership for headcount and things like that. Prevent burnout. Proactively address potential burnout by monitoring workload distribution and individual analyst capacity, and that ensure that workloads are manageable and sustainable to maintain team morale and to prevent attrition. This data-driven approach to resource optimization can help you ensure that your team is properly equipped to handle supporting the front lines. Embrace continuous improvement, automate, adapt, and document. In the fast-paced world of cybersecurity, perfect tools, systems, and data is elusive. Foster a culture of building internal development and engineering skills. Aim for good enough 80% solutions until the larger organization priorities align with yours. Don't be afraid to question existing processes. Don't keep doing it just because this is the way we're always doing it. Look for ways to improve and automate. Document everything. Just write it down, get it in a handbook, get it somewhere. This ensures knowledge sharing, repeatability, and long-term effective gains. Quality assurance. Acknowledge that errors are going to happen in analysis and interpretation. Focus on the root cause and document a solution for that. Establish robust QA processes. Set clear expectations for you and your team. And then lastly, maintain humility and collaboration. While the front line is undeniably crucial and can often receive well-deserved recognition, remember that cybersecurity is a team sport. Cultivate humility. Share the spotlight and celebrate successes of all teams contributing to this mission. Champion collaboration, actively foster cross-team collaboration and knowledge sharing. Ensure the other teams know how you work and how they can work with you. By embracing these principles, building trust and optimizing resources, fostering continuous improvement and prioritizing collaboration, you can create a powerful and unified cybersecurity force. The fight against cybersecurity is an ongoing journey that demands adaptability, innovation, and above all, a collective spirit. That's it. That's all I've got. Thank you. I didn't leave much time for questions, though. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Hi. Selfishly, I'm more on the security automation space. So I'm curious where you had at the end there about the automation. Is there any challenges you see with security automation or threat intel management in the space, or really just some more context around the automation you see with the threat intel space?
When you say space, are you saying like extraterrestrial resources in like that area? I'm not sure. I had a hard time. You're talking very fast.
In the context of your presentation here, just automation as it fits into the topics you were talking about.
Yeah, we've got our main job of providing attribution and analytical context. That's where we're focusing our areas. So ideally, we'd have an engineering team that we could say, hey, we need a thing that does this. Can you do this for us? Those don't always align. We're just one team in a bigger organization. So that was my point of saying, like, you've got to really develop that engineering and development skill set so you can get those 80% of solutions. Because it's challenging. You've got a day job of doing attribution and context for these frontline services. So you've got to build that automation capability internally until your engineering support from your organization can align with your needs. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure, thanks.
Sure. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I probably don't need the mic. I can talk.
Okay.
So when it comes to building a CTI program and you're trying to get one started off the ground, you're maybe a smaller company, what would be some of your recommendations as starting to get that off the ground to get buy-in from your leadership teams and stuff?
So we weren't always as well loved as we are now within the organization. And it always came back to that frontline data and continuing to push that message forward. You know, I'm biased because I've been doing this for a while, but you can hire people that are really good about Russia or China, that could do detections. Like, that's all stuff that you can buy for. And I'm not taking away from the people that do espionage work and financial crime, but that telemetry data, that corpus of data that we have that is over 15 years now of threat data, you can't buy that anywhere. That is organically grown, and that provides us all the goodness that we do on threat actors is source a lot to that. We can understand them, anticipate them, and you can't really, well, you can buy it from us, but I mean, you can't hire that data. You've got to build it. So that's the argument there. And that's what, you can't get timelines from telemetry. It's from those investigations which have a granular timeline. Sir?
You brought up trying to minimize burnout to lower attrition. Are you able to share any kind of techniques or concepts you may have to lower the risk of burnout amongst your teams?
We have a pretty mature team, as I mentioned, so we give a lot of runway for them to work on things that they're interested in. You know, as long as the job's getting done, like we're meeting our services people's needs, I'm good. So they've got areas that they can focus on by doing blogs, going to conferences, and I think that helps out quite a bit. Also, and this maybe is a little corny, you gotta love the people you work with, man. I love my team and recognize them every single chance you can get. We've got a couple of ways we recognize people on the team for like years of service, and I just highlight every time I see something that's worth recognizing. And I think that recognition lends to the team's culture. And to be honest with you, we've had really low attrition on my team since I've been on it. There's just some things that you can't anticipate. We've had some people that come in and go, I don't know if this is going to work. But you never know until that happens. But for the most part, people love the work. And giving them the runway to excel is, I think, very helpful in preventing burnout.
Thank you.